Good morning, third grade. It's Miss Martinez here, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with our new lesson for the day. So let's go ahead and look at our learning target. Our learning target says that I can identify the central idea of a text and use details from the text to support my answer. So we're going to be reading a really interesting article, and we're going to be looking for specific facts. We want to know what the whole story is about, but then also what specific things that we're learning from this article. And to do that, our skills that we're going to be using are being able to summarize, come up with the main idea, use our text evidence, and our inferencing skills. So those are the big ones that we're going to be looking through today. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Our topic for today is called the Founding Fathers. Now, you may or may not have heard of the Founding Fathers. If you haven't, that is completely okay. So this is more something that we would be talking about in social studies. The Founding Fathers we're going to learn about are these little group of men down here. So let's go ahead and read and find out about them, shall we? During the late 1700s, so remember, we are in the 2000s, and this was the 1700s, so that was a long time ago. A group of men led the creation of the United States government. These men became known as the Founding Fathers. The 7 most important Founding Fathers are, now they're going to list names: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. Has anybody ever heard of any of these before? Any of these names? Anybody? Some of the most famous ones out of that list are definitely George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, but you might have also heard of Thomas Jefferson. So maybe you heard of them. Here is the picture of all of them. All right. I'm not going to lie. I'm not sure if I could tell you who's who. I do know that this one right here is George Washington, and this one right here is Benjamin Franklin. The rest, I'm not entirely sure of. I think this is John Adams. Yeah. So there you go. All right, let's keep going. Now we have a new heading. So now we're going to get into a different section. That was our opening, our introduction. Here is our body. The achievements and failures of the Founding Fathers. So what they accomplished and what they didn't accomplish. The Founding Fathers had some great achievements. First, they won a war for independence against Great Britain. So this was something they achieved. So they won a war so that they could be independent against Great Britain, which we know as England today. Then they created a new government that still exists today. So they also were able to create a new government. So see how I'm highlighting these big important parts here? So here's another painting. This is a very, very iconic painting. You will see this oftentimes when we're talking about the Founding Fathers. And this says that it was a painting by John Trumbull depicting the Founding Fathers. So these are the Founding Fathers right here. And we'll explain more about what they're doing in a minute. However, the Founding Fathers were not perfect heroes. The Founding Fathers allowed the southern states to keep owning slaves. So they weren't the best, and they did make mistakes. Some of the Founding Fathers even owned slaves. They also did not create laws that would protect Native Americans in the future. So they definitely had some flaws. They didn't do everything perfectly. Now we're going to talk about specifically George Washington, who we call the father of the country, and we'll explain why. George Washington is best remembered as the first president of the United States. He is the first president we've ever had. And he did a lot before that too. Washington led the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War. He was a strong leader and was important in defeating the British. He was very well liked. So we're going to also highlight this. He helped lead the Continental Army. And there's a picture of him. The United States Constitution, which is a really big, important document. It's a piece of paper. It's a long thing that kind of helps us understand what the government should and shouldn't be like. It was created when Washington was the president. Washington then served as the first president of the United States, and Washington took this job very, very seriously. Now we're going to talk about Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin. So another really important document is the Declaration of Independence. And this is saying that we are independent. We are our own country. Okay? And this was adopted or created on July 4th, 1776. What is July 4th? What is that? It's the 4th of July. And that's when we celebrate our independence. Oh, see, there we go. It's said that the colonies, or just kind of like our little states almost now, were no longer under the rule of the British, England, Great Britain again. Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin all signed it. Adams was the second president, and Jefferson was the third. So our first president was George Washington. Our second president was John Adams, and our third president was Thomas Jefferson. Okay, and here is a picture of them looking through the document. Now, Benjamin Franklin, he was not a president, but he was very important. So Benjamin Franklin played many roles during America's founding. He was a writer and a scientist. So he was a writer and a scientist. As a founding father, Franklin helped to write the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. He was never the president, though. He never was president. And now we're going to talk about the last three men that were founding fathers: Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. And we're going to talk about the Federalist Papers. Say that again with me. The Federalist Papers. That's a big word. Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay were also founding fathers. They were authors of the Federalist Papers, so they wrote these papers. These were essays that told people about the United States Constitution, so it helped people understand what it was about. And this is the title page for it. This is what it actually looks like. This is a true picture of it. Okay. Jay became the first Chief Justice of the United States, and that is somebody who is with the courts, making sure that people are doing the right thing, things like that. James Madison was the fourth president of the United States. So 4 out of these 7 founding fathers were presidents. They ended up being presidents of the United States. So that's a big amount. 4 of them were presidents. Alexander Hamilton helped create the country's financial system. So he helped create like the banks and stuff like that, money. Along with the rest of the founding fathers, they forever shaped the course of America. They helped really help us define who we are. All right, that was a lot of information, but let's go ahead and see. Which founding father was a scientist? Which founding father was a scientist? Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at the different sections that tell me about each of them. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to skim through. I don't see anything about George Washington being that, but he's not even an option. I'm going to go down. I'm going to look through, and I found my answer. Ladies, who is it? It is Benjamin Franklin. It says right here that he was a writer and a scientist. Perfect. Which detail shows that the founding fathers were not perfect heroes? I want you to go ahead and pause this video, and I want you to find the answer and to think about what you think is the correct answer. Go. Pause the video. All right. Now, if you're back, you have your answer. We know that the fathers did not do everything correct. And one of the things it said was that, well, they didn't prevent slavery. They allowed for it. And it says right here, they were not perfect heroes. They allowed the southern states to keep owning slaves. So that is our correct choice. What is the main idea of the text, the big idea, what this whole thing is talking about? Is it talking about the many failures that they had? The whole text, not just this paragraph now, the whole thing. How the founding fathers created the United States of America? How Thomas Jefferson was skilled in math? Or that George Washington fought against the British Army? Which of these is what this whole thing is mostly about? Are we only talking about their failures? Are we only talking about how they're creating America? Are we only talking about Thomas Jefferson being skilled at math? Are we only talking about George Washington fighting against the army? Which one? Yeah, we're talking about the founding fathers creating America. Yes, their failures did get bring up, but that's not what all of this is about. I didn't know that he was skilled in math, and we didn't talk a lot about him fighting in the army. Excellent idea. All right. Which founding father was the first president of the United States? Which one was the first? Which one was the first? Which one? George Washington. Excellent. All right. What did the founding fathers do to make the U.S. its own country? What did they have to do in order to say we are independent? We are our own country. John Jay helped write essays. James Madison was the fourth president. They won a war for independence against Great Britain, or the founding fathers were not perfect heroes. Which one did they do? Which one? Pause it if you don't have your answer yet. Which one? James Madison? No. They won the war, and that's what made them our own country. All right, last one. I need you to tell me all of these that actually signed the Declaration of Independence. Select all the ones that actually signed the Declaration of Independence. And if you're not sure, go back to your article. Look at the section about George Washington. Does it tell you that he signed the Declaration? Pause the video so you can read through it if you need to. Then go to Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin. Tell me, does it tell you if they sign it? Pause the video. If not, you should have your answer ready to go. It never tells me here that George Washington signed it, but it does tell me down here that Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin all signed the Declaration of Independence. So all three of them did, but not George Washington. Excellent. And that is it, ladies. That's the whole thing. Now here is your writing assignment for the day. The question is, if you were a founding father, what would you do the same and or differently? What would you do the same as they did or differently as they did in order to help our country be created? Okay, so make sure you're using details from the text. You can always rewind the story, the video to be able to see and read through it again. Okay, it's all here for you. So make sure that you are using key details from the text to support your answer. All right, that is it. Make sure you've done this. You've checked out the other videos. You've gone on to News ELA, Zern, all that good stuff. We're going to have an announcement soon, so stay tuned for that. Have a fabulous, fabulous day, ladies, and I will hopefully see you all very soon.